Good evening everyone and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. Well, tonight we'll be discussing 19 toxic people to kick out of your life. Now, how do you recognize them? How can you protect yourself against them? And also, how do you actually get rid of them? So we're going to be talking about lots of things tonight. So I've got 19 points. If we don't get through all of them, don't worry, because they will be posted up on the Facebook page. So my guests tonight are psychologist Catherine Ivor, and also we have Stephen Good, who had a very toxic woman in his life, and he's going to be telling us all about that later on. And we also have this year's Big Brother stars Dexter and Charlie Travers, who will be talking about their experiences in the house as well as their past experiences with toxic people. So do stay tuned. If you want to get in touch at any point during the show, you can tweet Chrissy B Show and also Facebook the Chrissy B Show. But first of all, let's welcome Dr. Catherine. Hello.
Hi.
How are you, my love?
I'm great, thank you.
Okay, so this is a huge topic because obviously we've all come across toxic people in our lives. I certainly have, and I'm sure the viewers at home have as well. But also, I don't want this show to be like a show like, okay, let's attack the toxic people, because I think all of us have been toxic at some point in our lives, and maybe some people that are watching and maybe haven't realised it. So I think this show is going to help everyone all round today.
Sure, yes.
So what do you think, first of all, in your opinion, makes a toxic person? Why are they like that in the first place?
I think it's probably something to do with, we talk about this idea of unmet needs and, you know, how people actually have their needs met. And I think sometimes there is that idea of almost sort of attacking the very thing that you're sort of desiring yourself. If you feel you can't quite achieve that, you know, it might be easier sometimes to sort of almost like destroy it in other people or rubbish it in other people, and then it's not as desirable as you maybe had thought.
So that's really deep. Yeah. I had to really concentrate for that one. Okay.
So watching on that one. But yeah, I think that there can be that tendency sometimes that people really just sort of struggle with accepting their own sort of difficulties, and they're looking elsewhere to sort of try and pull that down.
But the good thing is, though, even if you do discover that you are toxic or you find yourself with no friends sometimes, that you can always change. And so we were talking about that as well. Yes. Now, I've got 19 points here. There were actually 20, but I didn't agree with one of them, so I took that one out. So this was I found this on iVillage.com. But let's go through some of them. Okay. Now, the first toxic person apparently that you should stay away from is the office gossip. Now, I know everyone loves to hear gossip and like it's so juicy and everything. But when it's in the work environment, you could get yourself into a lot of trouble. Even if you might say, but it's not me that's spreading rumours and it's not me that's gossiping. But the fact is, if you're the one listening to it and your work colleagues and your boss gets to know about it, you're going to get a bad reputation as well, aren't you?
Definitely, definitely. I think there's this thing of almost like being the bystander to certain things, and you sort of indirectly become part of this circle of what's happening. And I think that the way I always judge it, if someone's talking to you about other people, they're probably talking to someone else about you.
Exactly.
So I think it's really about being mindful of, you know, what's the person's need when they're doing that. They're trying to increase their popularity or be someone that everyone goes to for the information, but you
just get tarnished with the same brush as well, don't you, at the end of the day? So not a good thing. Now this one, the ex who always calls for sex. Now, okay, say, for example, you have broken up with someone and you know, the person can be a bit needy and they like that attention and they want to be with that person. But the thing is, if you are constantly going back with that person just for sex, they only call you when they want something from you, you're just blocking yourself from finding true happiness, because that person, it's so obvious the person's using them, but still people fall for it, don't they? Yeah.
I think it's hard when relationships end. They never sort of generally end as soon as you've called it a day. They kind of drag on. So I think sometimes for yourself as well, like you said, you might be feeling quite vulnerable at that point. So, you know, it might be that closeness that you get from the sort of situation, but it doesn't fulfill what you really need. It doesn't,
does it? And I think you just prolong the misery, because if they're an ex for a reason. Yes. And if you stay with an ex, if you keep going back to an ex, you're just hurting yourself all over again. And it's taking much longer for you to ever get over that person, if you ever get over them. Because if you keep answering their calls all the time, you're just going to be stuck in that horrible cycle. All right, let's do the next one. Another toxic person is the misery guts. So maybe you don't actually like this person, but you're with the person, you're maybe friends with the person just because you feel guilty. And it's not good for you, and it's not good for them either, because you're stopping them from maybe finding a true friend that really cares for them, and you're just getting yourself down in the dumps as well.
Yeah, I mean, that does happen. You sort of tend to find yourself wallowing together, really. And sometimes it can make you feel quite guilty when you want to talk about positive things, because they're sort of so down in the dumps that you just feel as if it's not allowed, and that can just sort of keep that rolling, really, almost as a sort of weird. And
you're in danger as well of actually making yourself miserable as well, because the more you hang around with miserable people. Now, please don't get me wrong. Now, I'm all for helping people. So if you see someone that is in genuine need, maybe they're going through something, don't just dump them because they're making you feel bad. Try and help them out. Try and give them some advice, point them in the right direction. If they need some kind of counselling or anything like that, obviously, please try and help them. But if you feel that you're trying to help them and they're not really taking anything on board, they just want to complain and just. Some people like to be miserable, I think. They just enjoy the attention and everything. But if it's that kind of person, that's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? And
definitely.
You're better off without them, because they're just going to bring you down as well.
Definitely.
Like I said, we don't want to be horrible in this program. We're all about helping people. So, all right, the person who won't commit. So say, girls, you're going out with that guy, and like he was always saying, well, I'm not really sure how I feel about you, and I think I like you, but I have to give it some more time, and like time is going, or the other way around as well. Time is going, and nothing seems to be coming. The person's just messing you around. What do you make of that, Catherine?
I don't know. You find that a lot, and I think at different points, different people are in those sorts of situations. Either you're, like you said, yourself doing it, or someone's doing it to you, and it might be that you're not quite sure about that person, or they're not sure about you. But I think there comes a point where there has to be a line drawn, and I think it is about sort of saying, well, actually, these are my boundaries, this is what I need, and you either fulfill that or you don't. And I think that's something that's really important with, but sometimes you do find people who are genuinely unsure, and it's just taking them a bit of time to get to that point, really, as well.
It's true, but it's like, how long does a person, like, if it's going on for like months or years, how long does a person need to be sure about you? I can understand if it's a couple of months, they really need to get to know you, especially if they're not around you very much. But if you're spending lots of time together, I think they should know by now.
Definitely.
So if it's just taking too long, just get rid of them. Now this one, I think we all have one of these, the family member that's always trying to fix your life. So it's the auntie, for example, that's saying, oh, when are you going to get married? Or when is this going to happen? And it's just so irritating. But sometimes it's not said in a nice way.
No.
Some comments from family members, especially if it's parents sometimes, obviously you can't get rid of your parents. Well, you can technically, but you can't really, it depends on who the family member is. But if it's like a distant cousin or an auntie that you don't particularly like, and they're always putting you down and making demands and trying to fix everything and trying to set you up with people, you don't need that. It's just...
No. And often it's that sort of, it's seemingly well-intentioned, so it's hard to respond to, because well, they're not saying anything that's supposed to be bad, but it actually makes you feel really awful.
It does.
It can be very, very hard to come back with that. But again, it's that sort of, maybe they feel they're older and more experienced, and so there's this idea of they have to guide you and coach you and tell you what's not right. But
which doesn't also allow you to develop as a person, because it's like sometimes you could fall into the trap of depending on them before you make a decision. And that's terrible. You could be like a grown adult, maybe in your 40s, 50s even, and like someone's still making decisions for you just because you've always had that link with them, because it's a family tie. And your life could be stuck because of them, and you don't even realise it.
And so actually, like you said, it can actually ebb away at your self-esteem, so it makes you even less likely to sort of want to branch out on your own and be more autonomous. So I think that can definitely be something that is an issue.
That's right. So we've got a couple of minutes before the break, so let's just try and get one more, maybe two. The frenemy. Haven't we all had one of those? So the person that pretends to be your friend and pretends to love you and have your best interests at heart, but really they want to see you down. They're jealous of you perhaps, and sometimes they're a bit hard to spot at the beginning, aren't they?
Very.
And you maybe feel flattered, oh, this person, I love this person, my best friend, and they're really good to me, but who knows what they're after really.
And like you said, sometimes often they're very kind of charismatic sort of people, or very engaging,
and you feel even like really good that they're even friends with you kind of thing.
Exactly. So you don't spot it, but then you sort of start to get the sort of the knockbacks and the sort of the fake kind of pleasantries, and you start sometimes to pick it up, but sometimes it takes someone else to point them out to you, because you're so sucked into their sort of little world.
There's a hint, if you start feeling kind of strange around them after a while, or you start to feel something's not quite right, or you
Not
feel
good
bad.
enough,
When you're with genuine friends or a partner that's, you know, really good to you, you genuinely feel good in their company. But if you find that you start to feel a bit bad, start to feel a bit awkward, or afterwards you don't feel good about it, that's a big hint that there's something not quite right, even if they haven't said anything outright to you. But start to watch that and be careful, because you really don't want this kind of person in your life.
Definitely not.
But Catherine, you're going to stay with us.
Sure.
Because we have a few more types of toxic people that we're going to dissect, along with our Big Brother stars Dexter and Charlie. So do join us after this. Welcome back to the show. And we're talking about 19 people to kick, toxic people, sorry, to kick out of your life. But now we have joining us Big Brother stars. We have Charlie and we have Dexter. Hello.
Hello. You all right?
Pleasure to have you both here with us.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, now tell us a bit about, before we go through some more of these toxic people, and Catherine, you're still going to give us your feedback as well. Tell us what your experience was like, first of all, in the Big Brother house, because you must have had some experience with toxicity in the house.
Yeah,
How was it for you?
Yeah, it was quite tough. I mean, both individually we went through experiences, but I found it quite hard to sort of get on with people, but at the same time, not people please, but stand up for yourself. And it was kind of a fine line between making friends with someone, and if they weren't your friend, they'd be your enemy. So it's how to sort of assess them and what their real intentions were, which is quite hard when you're under pressure in the cameras.
To be honest, I don't know, how long were you in there for?
10 weeks.
10 weeks, and Dexter, you
Yeah,
the
same,
weren't you?
yeah.
Because
10 long weeks.
I can't imagine what that must be like, because sort of on the outside world, when you do come across toxic people, you can actually walk away from them, or tell them politely that you don't want to be their friend anymore. But when you're in that kind of environment where you're just stuck in a house for so long with people that you might not necessarily get along with that well, how do you keep yourself together? I don't think I could take it.
It's really hard as well, because when they pick people to go on Big Brother, they pick them because they're all different personalities. And there were quite a few sort of toxic people in there as well. And everyone's trying to outdo each other to be the centre of attention and also cement their place in the house. Yeah. So, like you said, there is no way to get out. So dealing with those people becomes just everything in there. Yeah. So you have to really be a good judge of character and look at everyone and listen. I mean, I was up for nomination every single week.
How did you manage that?
Mr. Survivor.
You got away with it all the time.
I don't know. I don't know how I survived. It was the public, really.
Still a mystery.
Yeah. But you won them over in the end, which was great.
Well, not all of us.
Don't start. Yeah, I think because I was myself in the halfway point of the show, then the public really liked that. Yeah. And I think because of my previous experiences with jobs and also toxic partners myself, it was quite easy to be able to understand some of the character defects within certain people.
You were really good at reading people because of your experiences. Yeah, you were very perceptive of people.
Yeah. Well, just actually for yourself as well, you kind of fall through a few tricks and stuff.
I fell for everything. But I think it's quite hard, because I like to see the best of people.
I think I would as well, because I'm a bit gullible at times, and I'm like,
well, it's not just that. It's when you want to see the good in someone as well. You're kind of trying to distinguish whether where their intentions lie, and you kind of want to believe in them, but equally you don't want to be, a fool. So I struggle with that a little bit.
Yeah. So Catherine, we're listening to this as well, because sometimes it's hard, because you kind of don't want to be gullible, as I said before, like I am sometimes with people, but at the same time, you don't want to be mistrusting of people, and you want to give them a chance. But where do you draw that line where you're kind of getting it right?
Yeah, I mean, it is quite a fine line, and I think sometimes, like Dexter was saying, it's about being quite intuitive and sometimes being able to pick up, but at the same time, you want to be open to new experiences and to meet new people, because we don't always judge them correctly at first. But I think there can be that sense of, if you start to just notice, again, like we were saying, there's a pattern, there's a trend, there's something going on with them, you kind of come away feeling a bit uncomfortable, or you're never quite sure where you stand with them. It's usually a good sign that, maybe they're not for you. They might be someone else's cup of tea, but just not yours.
I totally agree with you. I mean, in normal life, if you meet someone that sort of sends shudders down your spine, or you don't like, then you just walk away. I think what we found in there is, you might get to like somebody one day, but then tomorrow some big drama happens, and then they suddenly become your frenemy as well, and then people use you to get to certain places in life, you know, in and outside of the house. I mean, I've had it in my personal life as well, where people have sort of made me do things that I don't want to do, or dragged me into negative behaviour patterns.
You do find people who stir.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think that can be, especially in a situation like that, it's
more so in there just because of everyone's in there for a game, so there's a result, there's an end goal, so everyone's obviously naturally different. The circumstances are different to real life, and usually have an opportunity to escape or cut someone out, but when you're stuck, you have to sort of make do and sort of accustomise and just, you know, deal with things accordingly.
I don't know if I'll be able to last in there, honestly. So Dexter, you mentioned that you've had a few toxic relationships. Can you tell us what made them toxic and how you dealt with that? And did you kind of fall for it first?
Yeah, I did. I was with a partner, I'm not going to mention her name, for I think two years, and it just became a very sort of codependent, toxic relationship. And I think, speaking from my experience, I don't know if other people have had this, but I think sometimes when you want love that much, you end up sort of taking the abuse of a toxic person just for that feeling of wanting to be loved,
so
where you know that it is toxic and you two are sort of driving each other mad. And it's like, when it was good, it was really good. But when it was bad, it was the fights were just terrific.
Terrible. I mean, I know what you're talking about, because I would say I was the toxic person in the relationship with my then boyfriend, now husband, thankfully stayed with me. But I was very bad for him, and I was very needy because I was going through problems.
Yeah.
Because I had depression, I had, you know, major issues in my life. So I was very toxic towards him in the fact that I was very needy, clingy, would argue with him all the time, and it was a terrible relationship, but thankfully I got help for that. And then
were
our
you aware
relationship
of it
just
when
changed.
you were
I was, because I didn't want to behave that
Yeah.
way. But I just couldn't help myself, and I used to lose my temper and throw things at him and slap him and all sorts of things. So it was really bad.
I was the same.
I
mean, she, this particular girl, she smashed one of those halogen kitchen light tubes over my head.
Oh no!
And she's you got a scar. That's what that's for. It's like a Harry Potter thing. And it was always like 500 texts a day. Where are you? Are you with another woman? And I actually wasn't.
Yeah.
And
all led from insecurities,
yeah,
isn't
and
it?
it was all
Just
of her insecurities and my insecurities as well. And then, you know, some of the things she used to say to me, and then you used to feel really small, and it actually gave me sort of body issues and stuff like that as well. But
that's the thing, you could be sort of a well-rounded individual, but when you're with a toxic person, even if you're just friends with one, you could end up doubting your decisions, not liking the way you look anymore. It's just so many issues. It's not just about, oh, you know, I don't like this person very much. They could really be damaging to your mental health, to even your physical health.
Definitely.
Scary the impact
it's
they
always
can have,
that line,
actually.
oh, you know, it's not you, it's me. And it was always, it's your fault for everything,
line,
you know. And when really sometimes it's not. And it's only when your friends tell you or your parents tell you like that person's not good for you and she's dragging you down, and you know, and I was drinking a lot because she was just giving me so much stress. You know,
Vicious cycle,
it was a vicious cycle.
Downward spiral.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So how did you end things? Did you end things, or did she end things?
Well, in the end, my mother was just basically, again, just sort of stepped in and she was like, look, you've got to get this person out of your life.
I think when mums get to that point when they see their child in danger, or like it's really, they'll just jump in. It doesn't matter what your age is, does it?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so Charlie, how about you? So did you have any toxic people in your life? And
yeah, I've had a long list actually.
Really?
Hopefully it's not so much anymore, because I think I'm getting better with detecting it, because obviously there is, like you said, a pattern that forms.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, especially a couple of my relationships, because of my insecurities and sort of, you know, like we all have sometimes that want to be loved, you end up being so absorbed in the situation you can't read between the lines, and you sort of, until you look back and reflect on it, you had no idea how sucked in you were, and you became a shadow of you know, I became a shadow of myself, and then you feel like you need them, and it's this downward spiral, as Dexter was just saying. But hopefully I'm out of those days.
Did that make you more aware when you went into the Big Brother house because of the experiences you had in the past?
I don't know, it did, but it didn't, because feelings towards a boyfriend and having those sort of intimate feelings is very different for me detecting it with actual people and strangers.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I found it very hard to detect who was real and who wasn't, and who was leading me astray and who was sort of lying to me. But then eventually you do sort of step outside and realise that some people are very manipulative, and there are certain signs to pick up on, and I think I'm getting better with reading them. But no, it is tough to be to be on the ball, but also be an understanding human being and try and sort of see the goodness in someone.
Yeah. So tell us about now some of your best moments in the house. What would you say were your best moments?
Leaving.
I think mine was going into the safe house. So basically, we got fake evicted. So me and another girl, Gina, from the house, we thought that we were evicted from the process, and then we went out and we were told.
Was it kind of relief at the same time? Though, it was like, oh my god, yeah,
I'm out.
But
you didn't really get a chance to sort of for that to sink in, because you came out, you did your wave, you got to the stage, and then the presenter said they haven't been voting to evict you, they've been voting to keep you. And then I cried actually really badly, and then got put back in, and then we got to actually watch everybody for a week in secret. And that was the most amazing experience, because you actually got to see what the viewers see, and that taught you so much about people and their characteristics.
That was a great insight for you, wasn't it? To sort of see how actually everyone was.
Because you can actually see how toxic people are, as well as because how they interact with other people. And their reactions, because somebody could have an argument with someone or have a conversation, then they'd walk off, and you'd see that person's face, and then you'd also be able to see how they react to certain situations. Then you know how to deal with that particular person when you go back in.
That's so good. It's inside information. How about your best moments?
Best moment was probably when...
I should have asked the worst moments first, shouldn't I? I can do that after the break.
Well, my kind of worst moment is actually seconds before my best moment, which was when the whole house sort of turned against me and didn't massive misunderstandings, and it was after these family nominations, and I sort of was absolutely crushed, and I wanted to leave, and I just felt totally misunderstood. But then I was living in fear of people and what they thought of me, and I was kind of submitting to people and speaking to them, even when I knew they probably weren't good, but I was sort of befriending them because I was scared of what they'd be like if I didn't. And then once that whole thing happened, I kind of came to a bit of a realisation. I thought, what on earth am I doing? Like, I've got to start, I've got to get my strength back. Yeah, it gave me some backbone. I thought, actually, I know I'm a good person. I'm starting to know who I am, and just sort of got rid of the fear, and I started to feel really great and strong.
That's a great thing, because at that time, sort of, you had a choice. You could sort of crumble under all that pressure and just like lose it completely and just walk out. Or you're at that stage where you think, you know what, I don't care what people think. I know who I am.
Didn't care anymore.
It's a lovely stage to get to, though, isn't it? Because you're really relieving. And, you feel like you've really
totally liberating. Yeah, no, it was great. That was definitely my best moment, because obviously I can carry that with me now in life generally. And no, it was a great lesson to learn.
Okay, so you're both going to stay with us, and you're going to stay with us too, Catherine, because we're going to be talking about the other types of toxic people that you really don't want in your life, and we're going to get our guest's opinion on that as well. So do join us after this. Welcome back to the show, and we're continuing our topic about toxic people, and I'm still with Catherine and also Dexter and Charlie from Big Brother. So we're talking about your experience in the Big Brother house, but let's talk a bit more now about these types of toxic people. We've got a few more to get through, and let me know if any of you have had these types of people in your life. Now, this one's not so obvious, because I kind of didn't get this one when I read it first, but it's talking about old friends. Sometimes they can be toxic, because if you don't have any, you're sort of always talking about the past, and if you don't have any new memories to build together, or new things, new goals, they can actually be quite bad for you. So I mean, I haven't really kept much in touch with like very old friends, I haven't kept in touch with anyone from school. The only person I kept in touch with from uni was my husband, obviously, because I had to, because we got married. But that's all really. Have you guys kept in touch with old friends from?
Yeah, I've kept in touch with quite a few, but I'm starting to realise I'm starting to filter them out actually more, because a bit like what you said, I realised that actually I was staying friends with them for the sake of it, because of the history, because of the connection. You kind of feel a little bit of loyalty towards someone because of obviously the longevity. Actually, when you sort of break down the situation, you think, I'm not actually their kind of person anymore, and vice versa, and we're really not actually very close. We're not that in common, and then you kind of go through a phase of, do I even need to be friends anymore? And then eventually you kind of go, actually, it's about creating new memories and people that are, in the now and that are good friends now.
Plus, they can keep you stuck in the past, because if, for example, you're with those friends when you had this awful boyfriend, for example, or girlfriend, and then you're just talking about the same old stuff
living
that you
completely in the
went
past
already, it could be really bad for you as well.
All
right, the schemer.
Now
this is the type of person that always seems to be up to no good. They're always like trying to get you dragged into things. So, for example, can you spy on my ex for me? For example, are you laughing because you don't know someone?
I was about to say I got her on the couch, but
they're always trying to drag you into something, or spy on my boyfriend for me, or do this for me, or let's a quick rich scheme or something like that. But they're dragging you back again. I don't know what you think about that one, Catherine.
Yeah, I think there is something there about kind of, again, this, if it's always lopsided in your relationship and someone's always sort of demanding certain things of you, and I think it's also about knowing what you're about, but you get sucked into this sort of, you want to please them for some reason, so you're doing things, but I'm not sure if they're always aware of it, that they're trying to sort of lead you astray, but they're doing it anyway, and I think...
It kind of goes into the next one, or the bad influence, so like sometimes this person can be a lot of fun, and maybe you get to do stuff that's really exciting that you've never done before, but that excitement is going to come to an end at the end of the day when you start to get into trouble. So that's a really, like I said, it can be enticing, poison. But then poison, exactly. That's the right word. Have you had anyone like that?
Definitely. Yeah, no, I've had friends that we used to go out and do crazy stuff and crazy parties, and I used to have a gambling problem as well. So I had friends that I used to play cards with, and what you were saying about them dragging you back to the past as well. It's because they were only your friends when you're doing certain negative things, and then suddenly when you don't do those certain negative things again, then they're
Nothing
not your
left.
friends anymore.
It's horrible, isn't it? You really see who's who. Yeah, definitely one to watch. Now, I know, guys, everyone loves Facebook, don't they? Maybe this is not the right one to bring up because, we've got people that are all over Facebook and Twitter with me at the moment. But like all those Facebook friends, people that aren't really your friends, you really need to have loads of them. Obviously, if you're in the public eye, I think it's a bit different. But everyday people, why would you need all those friends on Facebook that are just kind of not real when you really need someone? If you feel like you've got people around you, but then when you really need someone, when you're in trouble, it's like they're not there for you.
Yeah.
Facebook's really dangerous, actually. Very dangerous, because people get obsessed by it, and then you start to get this. I had it years ago when I started to get obsessed by looking at what other people are doing. You get this missing out syndrome, and it's unfortunately this generation in our society and day and age is very much about the social network and media. I think it could be quite detrimental. Again, unless you're using it for business or public eye, then I don't think it's too good for someone.
And I think a lot of young people these days as well, it is sort of about how many Facebook friends you've got, how many Twitter followers you've got. And I think if in school, I know as well, because there was always that one guy who only had like 5 Facebook friends, and then all of his mates had like 3,000.
Yeah, it makes you feel bad.
And it's like, oh.
So, we could say mine are genuine. I've got 5 genuine friends. Okay, this one, I think we've also all had one of these. I had one of these when I was at uni. The broke friend, the one that never has any money. Now, I am all for helping out a friend that, is going through a bit of a hard time, but if they constantly don't have money, because I had this one friend and she just never had money, and because I always wanted to go out and about and go to different places, I always ended up paying for her, but it was literally all the time. And I got to a point where I thought, you know what, this girl's just using me. I thought she was a really good friend at first, but then I started to see, like you said, you sort of fall for it and you think you see the best in everyone. So I thought, she's having a hard time.
All comes out in the end.
Her parents might not be as generous as mine, but she was getting a grant as well. And back then we didn't have to pay things back, we just used to get our education paid for, plus we used to get grants. So she got the same grant as I did, and yet she was always broke. So if you find that it's constant, it's like going on for too long, then that person is probably just using you for your dosh, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Any experiences there, guys?
Yeah, also you can have, some people have, I know friends that have got no money whatsoever, like they really don't make much money and they're sort of minimum wage. And sometimes I find they're the most generous, like they're warm and loving. Yeah. I've got some friends, won't mention their names, but they even treat me, or they always give gifts at birthdays, and they do what they can. And then
even though you know that they don't have much, but that means even more.
You can have someone with loads of money that actually is very, very stingy, and that's probably why they've got loads of money. But
Yeah, I've had, I was stupid and dated some girls that were just around for the cash, and they wouldn't even buy you a cup of coffee. Yeah. And they're actually going mad if you ask them to buy you a cup of coffee.
I don't know how people like that, honestly, I can't.
And then it's always take.
Yeah.
And then you think, hang on, am I in a relationship or am I an ATM? And
or your bank.
Yeah. And then you end up in that toxic
loads
thing.
of reserves and probably think you've got.
I think the money one is quite an interesting one because you can quantify it. Other ones are less sort of concrete, so you can't quite, when you're constantly putting your hand in your pocket or you're the one paying for stuff, you actually probably twig
because it's physical.
Yes.
Yeah.
because it's something quite sort of, you're aware of it and you
Yeah.
sort of notice.
And if they're really, really toxic, then they'll put on the tears if they don't want to buy you anything.
Yeah.
I haven't had that.
Yeah, no.
That's really
I was with a girl that I took to my mother's wedding. Okay,
Yeah.
and we
Your
were.
mum's coming into the conversation.
I know,
She,
I know.
she came on to our dinner.
Yeah, she did actually. That's another story. And she wanted a new pair of shoes, and they were really expensive shoes. They were like Gucci shoes. They were like 260 odd quid or whatever they were. And she was actually crying because I didn't get her the shoes.
Oh my
and then
God.
she threatened to leave me and go to someone else if I didn't get her the shoes.
Oh,
And
joking.
that is like a toxic money grabbing
Dexter, did you get her the
rinser.
shoes?
And stupid me got her the shoes.
No, you didn't.
Yeah. Every
Quite
time I look at the wedding photos now and I see
I
these
hope
shoes.
you took them back afterwards. No, you didn't, did you? Oh, nice guy.
I didn't.
You
I'm a nice guy at heart.
Oh my
I let her
gosh,
keep
yeah.
the shoes.
So it made you a wiser man at least.
Definitely.
And
definitely.
before we say, we've got a couple of minutes left before we say bye to both of you, but what are your plans for the future? What are your projects and stuff that you're looking forward to doing? Who wants to go first?
I'm just in the process of finalising a book deal. It's just a little book that I wrote just about my previous jobs and a little bit of Big Brother.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just getting back to normal life, really.
Has it been difficult getting back to normal life?
Yeah, very.
It has, because being on a show like that, they put you on a pedestal, and then when you come out, if you don't put your feet on the ground, and you think you're amazing, that's when nothing happens. So
the transition period is very hard to adjust
the transition period.
After,
I mean,
off the show.
I went in there not expecting too much, so whatever happens after is a bonus for me.
Yeah.
I was
So
the opposite.
yeah, I've got a couple of things on the cards that I can't talk about, and a bit of pantomime over Christmas, hopefully.
Oh really? Oh, that's nice.
Still a man of mystery.
Oh, brilliant. How about you, Charlie?
Yeah, no, I'm doing a couple of things. I'm working on the committee of a few different charities now. Stuff that I've been involved in myself and had my own personal experiences with that I now want to help and sort of teach and if I can
great.
inspire other girls. I'm also obviously getting in the studio to get back into music. So I'm songwriting, producing and doing some dance music.
Oh, nice.
And just literally figuring out where to go next really. It took a bit of a hit coming out of Big Brother and I didn't really know what I wanted and how to react. Just adjusting to normality. So I'm writing a book and, lots of writing and creativity, but we'll have to see what happens.
That's good. Well, all the best for the future for both of you.
Thank you very
I'd say they're
much.
very down to earth. They're lovely, lovely people. So thanks for coming on.
No
And all
problem.
the best
Thanks for
for
having
everything.
us.
Best for
Lovely to have us.
everything.
Thank you.
Okay, so do
Cheers.
stay with us. Catherine, you're going to stay with us because after the break, we have Stephen Good on to tell us about a very toxic lady that he had in his life and also how he got rid of her. So do join us after this. Welcome back to the show, and now I have with me Stephen Good, who's going to be telling us all about what happened to him and a very toxic lady. And we also still have Catherine with us, who's going to be also giving her comments. And I've got a few more, if we have time, I've got a few more types of toxic people that you don't need in your life. And if we've got time, we'll get our guests to comment as well. So, hello, Stephen.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, how are you?
So I believe you're happy now, but you weren't so
Yes.
happy a little while ago, were you?
No, absolutely not.
So what was happening there?
Well, it was back in August last year, really. I was
Oh, it was
out.
quite recent.
Yeah, I know. I was out in London and I was in a casino with my friend in Mayfair. And as I walked in, I'd been to a few clubs before, had a few drinks, having a good time with my friend. And as I went to the bar to get a drink, someone came and started tickling my back. And I was thinking to myself, oh, who's that? So I saw it was a lady and she had her back to me. So at that point, I was sort of thinking, well, obviously I haven't seen what she looks like and, I don't know her. She hasn't, but it's very odd to, introduce the conversation by tickling my back.
It's quite forward as well, isn't it?
Exactly, very forward. And she said, she turned around and then smiled and I smiled and it was sort of like a very strange initial connection. And, there was an attraction there. I was very attracted to her, etc., etc. And it really just went berserk from there. We met the next day. She told me to pick her up at a station in Maidenhead. I picked her up and we went for dinner. And from there, it just sort of went absolutely crazy. I ended up finding out that she sort of lived in Chicago, whereas me being based in the UK, I was like, after spending a few weeks with her, I thought, oh my God, she's halfway across the other side of the world. We really have fallen for each other. What am I going to do? And she said, well, in a few weeks' time, you can come out and visit me. She said, that she was 35 at the time. I was 21. and it was pretty much left like that.
Did you at any point think to yourself, this is going way too fast, or were you just sort of enjoying the moments and like not really thinking too much about what was really going on?
When I first met her, she was with her sisters. So it was a very relaxed environment. I had no idea whatsoever that, you know, there was anything to be concerned about. And because I'd spent that week with her and she said, you know, visit in a couple of weeks' time, I thought that's pretty natural. You know, I've seen her, I've spent time with her, and now she wants me to go over to see her in her home country, which I did do.
Okay, and the
story unfolds from there.
Okay, so what happened when you went
Well,
there?
I went over there and then I came back, and then I went over there again and I came back.
So was it all good up until then?
It was all fantastic, and then
you really
know,
thought, wow, this is the one for me?
Oh, 100%. You know, we went to New York together, we went to Las Vegas, we travelled all around America.
Oh, it was really serious then?
Really serious.
Yeah.
And then it got to around, I think it was around October, and we sat down and had a conversation. She broke down in tears and she said, you know, I've told you a lie. There's something that, you know, I need to tell you. So at that point I'm thinking, oh goodness me, what's this going to be? And she said, I've actually got 2 children. So I didn't think anything bad at that point. But she said, I'm also married as well.
Oh gosh.
So I'm thinking, you know, I've fallen head over heels for this girl, and now I've found out she's actually married. And she sort of slipped in there towards the end of the conversation that she was basically separated, but she was living in the same house with him, etc. So I pretty much.
How did you feel at that point when she
I was
said that to you?
I was very upset. I was devastated because I knew at that point that I'd fallen in love with her, and there was no turning back for me. I couldn't at that point walk away and say enough's enough. And it sort of spiraled from there. I met her children, I met her father, and you know, when her husband was away, we used to go in the house and I used to go over there. I think in total in 2012, I went over there 12 times.
What did you find out afterwards? Was she actually separated, or
No,
what?
she wasn't.
Oh gosh.
I found out she wasn't actually separated, but as I say, I was just way too far in it. And you know, over Christmas and New Year it was very difficult because obviously she had to be with her family because her mother was coming over. She lived in Washington, and then New Year was very difficult, and it sort of spiraled from there. But we planned that she would have her Christmas and New Year with her family, and then in January she was going to come over and spend it with my family, and we were going to go to Dubai and, you know, a few other places. So she came over in January and we went to Dubai and we had an amazing time, and she went back and she found out she was thrown out of her house. So just to cut a long story short, she basically went and we decided that the best thing for her to do at this point was to actually say to her husband, it's over, we need to formally separate, which for me was good because we got to that point. So she did that, she moved into an apartment, and I then got an apartment opposite her so that we could be close because she was going to come back to England full time in June. That was always the plan. And from there it just sort of like really deteriorated. She said to me in March, we planned to go on a family holiday with my family, and she said, about 3 days before, I don't want to go. And she said, there's no way I'm going on this holiday. Absolutely out of the question. I said, well, why is that? And she said, I just don't want to go. And on a Wednesday, I used to help out with her kids when she used to go to the gym. So I spent some time with the kids, and they never used to refer to me as Stephen. They used to refer to me as baby, because then the husband would never find out. Oh gosh, yeah. So that was, you know, another thing which I realised how far I was in at that point, even when I was introduced as that person.
Do you wish, looking back now, do you wish you'd gotten out as soon as you'd found out that she was married?
It's very easy to sit back here and say, yes, I wish I could have got out. But the truth of the matter is the love and the situation we were in was way too strong. And there had to be an outcome.
Even though it was so bad for you, though?
Even though it was so bad. But then again, we did spend the majority of time together. Yeah. Because even though she was living in a house, even before she formally separated in February, she still used to spend all the evenings with me and just leave the house. And so I knew at that point that her relationship with her husband wasn't completely perfect, and that obviously they were both up to something. So anyway, when I realised in March that she did not want to come over with me back to England, I was sitting in the lounge and she'd left a handbag, but the one that she normally takes out in the evening, and in there was just loads of papers and stuff like that. And I thought, well, I'm going to have a look in it. I know that's really bad to go through a woman's handbag.
It's a woman's handbag, but you know, on this occasion,
I know that's really bad. And I found an address and a telephone number on the back of a receipt. So instinctively, I then looked at the front of the receipt, and on the bottom it said 10 a.m. on Tuesday. Now, Tuesday would have been when she was in England with me. So I thought, where's she going at that time, and why is it so specific? And then I looked on the internet and I found out it was an abortion clinic. Oh gosh. So immediately, when she came back, I sort of said to her, I think I said to her actually that she had rosy cheeks and everything like that, expecting her to turn around and say, yeah, by the way, I'm pregnant, but she didn't end up saying that. And she then told me she broke down, and I said, well, whatever happens, we need to go back to England and sort this out. So from my perspective, in love, 150%, this is the one for me. We'd bought engagement rings, we'd gone all around the world together, we met the families, and we went on holiday with my family. And then when we got back, she sat down and she said, you know, we can't keep this child. I can't have left America, married with 2 children, to now return to England in June, divorced or separated.
You feel like you were being strung along?
I felt like I was being strung along, and I felt like at the last moment where she could have had that child and we could have been together, she realised that, you know, maybe it was too much of a gamble for her to take. And she then, when we both went back to Chicago after the holiday in England in March, and she said, it was great for 2 weeks, you know, everything was fine, there was nothing wrong with both of us. And she said to me one night, she sent me a text message over the road, and she said, I've got something to tell you, I'm sorry. And then at that point, I knew exactly what this was. So I phoned her and I said, don't even say any more, I'm coming over. Went over, and she said to me, I've had an abortion, the child's gone. Completely and utterly unexpected. I never thought in a million years that she would have got rid of the child.
How did things end between the two of you?
I made the decision the day after I was going to fly back for 2 weeks.
You did it. So
I did.
You got that. You must have that strength.
I got that. You know, we went to Watford Scan and we had a scan of the child. We found out its aging. We found out everything. So for her to have done that was pretty harsh. So I made the decision. I got on the plane. I left for 2 weeks. We kept in touch. Before I left, she turned up at the airport. She didn't realise I was going to leave at that time, and she gave me a scanned copy of the child's scan, knowing that she'd just got rid of it.
Oh my God, that's
so that
terrible.
was pretty hard to take. So obviously there was like a couple of weeks where, you know, we were still speaking every day, and then after 2 weeks I got a text message saying that she just got back from a weekend with her husband from Las Vegas, and they're reconciling, and he's taken her back. Her husband did not know a single thing about what had gone on. And at that point I sat there and I thought, you know, one thing I've omitted, not told you, is that her father was actually on remand from jail and staying in my flat while she had sent me that text message. So she sent me that message ending our relationship, going back to her husband, whilst her father was still living in my apartment.
I think we need to do a whole show about this, because
I know.
we've almost run out of time, and like we've only got a few minutes. But do you know what? I'm going to carry on this topic about toxic people, because I think there's so much that, and obviously, Catherine, I wanted to get more from you as well, because we've got a few things to talk about, still different types of toxic people. I don't know, I have to arrange for you guys to come back for us to continue with this topic, because there's just too much into it. But how do you feel looking back now? What maybe, I know it's easy with hindsight, but what maybe could you have done differently to kind of avoid getting into that situation? Because, I mean, you didn't know what was going on, basically, did you, at the beginning? No,
I didn't have any idea. I think in hindsight, I made a couple of fundamental errors, which is down to me, way too fast. It should have been taken, you know, slow. I should never have gone over as much, although she still came over here the equal amount of times I did. And I think number two, I think I should have made a stand as much as it would have been extremely difficult to say, you're married, you've told me, you've lied, I still love you, I still want to be with you, you've got to leave your husband and then give me a ring. That was maybe the thing that I should have done, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah, that's the thing. I haven't got time anymore to talk. I wanted to get your opinion about that, because I know people as well that found they got really deeply involved with someone, later found out they were married, and my advice obviously was, please don't stay with him, he's married, he's going to string you along. She ended up staying with him for 15 years, ended up breaking her heart and messing her around. So, but it's so hard, sort of looking from the outside, you think, oh, you know, why don't they just break up? It's so, come on, they found out this person's not right for them, but people just get so involved with their emotions and everything. It's just really difficult. But I'd really like to continue this topic, so I will be doing another show to go through the other points as well. Hopefully get you both back on as well to give more opinion about this, because I really don't feel like we finished this topic. No. If you don't mind, guys at home, do you? Right, we can do another. We don't normally do this, actually. I think it's the first time this has happened.
I think we should get Charlie and Dexter back as well.
We should. All right, so guys, thank you so much anyway for coming and sharing that. Indeed. We'll be doing this again. And guys at home, I hope you've enjoyed the show. But like I said, we will be continuing very soon. So we'll let you know on the website. If you want more information about our guests tonight as well, you can visit the website, chrissybshow.tv. And for now, bye-bye, and we'll see you again soon.
Hello. Hi, welcome to New Star. Oh, sorry, my name's Neil.
Hi, dear. Lovely to meet you.
Hi, lovely to meet you.
Yeah,
1 minute, 1 minute. Welcome to New Star. My name's Neil.
Oh yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
nice.
Oh.